Hey guys, I'm going to be showing you how to install one of our ice makers in one of our top mount refrigerators. Before we get started, make certain that you always have your proper PPE, gloves, glasses, anything else needed so that we can be safe. Alright, so let's start this by opening up our packaging. I want to pull everything out and show you guys what is present inside of one of these kits. This is an IM117000. Alright, so we have our housing, we have our hanging bracket, we have a bag full of hardware, we've got our ice maker itself, we've got an ice container, and our instructions. All right, let's empty out the contents of our bag. So we have some paperwork and a return shipping label for our parts return program. We're going to set that aside. We don't need any of that. This is a new install. We've got our door for our housing. We've got a water valve. We've got our tube that's going to go from our valve to our ice maker. We've got 3 hooks. We have 5 shoulder screws, 2 1/4-inch screws. That should be everything we need to do the install. So before we get started, let's go ahead and unplug the unit. We're going to open up our freezer. We're going to remove our freezer shelf, and we're just going to set it off to the side for now. So if you're looking on your back wall, up here in the top left corner is a cover. That cover is actually going to have our connection to our ice maker behind it. There's a release clip right here on the left-hand side of this cover. If we use a flathead screwdriver, we can actually pry that cover off. Right here's our fill tube for the ice maker. There's our connection for the ice maker. All right, so next we're going to locate, there's little dimples in the liner. I've got 2 here on the left-hand wall. I've got 3 up here on the ceiling. We're going to take these shoulder screws, and we're actually going to use a number 2 Robinson bit, and we're actually going to drive our screws in to those dimples until they are snug up against the wall. So my unit is 30 inches wide, which means I am going to use my hanging bracket. If my unit was 28 inches wide, you would not need the hanging bracket. You would then just mount the ice maker directly to the shoulder screws on the left-hand side wall. If you're not certain what the width on your unit is, you can look at your model serial plate, and it does give you that information there. So I'm going to take my ice maker out of its packaging, and I'm going to connect it to my hanging bracket, which involves, you've got a cutout here and a cutout here, and then you've got 2 points that go into those cutouts. So we're just going to take the ice maker and slide it on. Let's go ahead and plug our electrical connector into the back wall. All right, now using the 2 shoulder bolts on our left-hand wall, we're going to slide our ice maker back, locking onto them, but make certain that you keep your fill tube positioned properly over your funnel. All right, so the door did not come clipped in on my housing, so I'm going to go ahead and affix it. Lock it in place so that we can open and close our door. And then we're going to put our housing onto the 3 shoulder bolts that we tightened into the ceiling. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put my shelf back in, but if you notice, I am actually locating it in the lowest position. That way we give it enough clearance to where we can put our ice container underneath our ice maker. All right, so I've got my unit turned around. We're going to go to our fill tube connection right here, and we're going to remove this cover. That can be disposed of. We're going to take our line. It's actually wrapped up. We're going to unravel it and stretch it out nice and straight. We're going to take our connection here, and we're actually going to thread it. Now be very, very careful that you do not cross thread. This is a plastic connector. If you cross thread it, then you're just going to be running the risk of creating a leak. So we want to hand tighten this as tight as we can get it. And then once we've gone as tight as we can by hand, we're going to take a pair of needle nose. We're going to tighten it down until it seems good and snug. So for those units that do have a machine compartment cover like mine, I'm going to go ahead and remove it. All right, so let's go ahead and get the wires off of my water valve so we can connect them right here. All right, so there is a black mark on our fill tube. That's an indicator of how deep this needs to go in to our John Guest connection. And then we're going to set our valve right here on the side where these two marks are and use 2 of these 1/4-inch screws that came in our kit to secure it. All right, so our kit came with 3 of these hooks. 2 of them I'm going to install on the back wall, but 1 of them we're going to use before we put our cover back on. We're going to affix it right here. It's going to secure our wires to the base of the cabinet. Just like that. All right, so there's 2 things I wanted to point out with this cover as we're putting it back in place. Number 1, our power cord actually has a cutout down here on our panel that it needs to fish through, so whenever we're aligning our back panel, make certain that you center your power cord in that cutout. Second thing is this hump back here. There's a raised area right here for the water line to actually fish through. So whenever we tighten this cover back down, that's going to keep that water line routed where we want it. I'm going to go ahead and affix my clips here to the back to hold my water line in place. We've successfully completed the installation of an ice maker on this top mount refrigerator. We've successfully completed the installation of an ice maker on this top mount refrigerator.